All right, guys. In this episode, Dr. Jeff and Cole discuss 2 lessons from one patient at a time. Lesson 17, education is part of care. And lesson 18, certainty is more valued than uncertainty.
From the in-office studios of his eye care practices in Nashville, Tennessee, it's As I See It with Dr. Jeff Kegaris, your source for eye care education and receiving the type of patient relationship you deserve. It is time for a patient revolution. And now, your host, Dr. Jeff Kegaris.
Welcome to another edition of As I See It. I'm Dr. Jeff Kegaris, talking to you from Cool Springs Eye Care with my cohort, Cole Evans. How you doing, Cole?
I'm doing really well, Dr. Jeff. It's the beginning of a new year. We're at the end of January, right?
Yeah.
But I hope everyone enjoyed. If you have not, I would actually say even pause this episode and go back one, because we do the intro to Katie Johnson. I don't know how well you know.
She's a champion.
She's awesome.
She is. She really is.
If you want to get some real insight to what goes on at these practices, and just someone that has worked with you side by side for many years now, Katie is a great example of what it takes to run a practice.
Yeah, I think if you're a manager of any type of business, food service, service of in healthcare,
Right.
I mean, she's a really, really good one to see how she's evolved as a manager, how she looks at her job, what she oversees, and how she interacts with our people, because that's a big part of management. You know, we break that down, and we'll talk about it later, into STOMF. That's our management acronym. Managers are responsible for strategic operations, marketing, personnel, and finance. And on the P, the personnel part, a huge amount of time spent on that, and Katie does that very, very well.
That's awesome. As soon as you said the word and started down the path, I was like, is he going to know all the words? That's the real question. But he does. Of course he does. You know why? Because you and your wife decided to do what most married couples never do, and you decided to write a book together, which most of our listeners have heard about. Definitely our patients are seeing when they walk in the door to the practices, because we are trying our best to tell everyone that we can about this awesome book, One Patient at a Time, the K2 Playbook for healthcare and business success. The cool thing, if you're just picking up this episode or you've heard previous episodes, you've heard us say this, because I'm trying to shout this from the tallest rooftop in town, that Amazon has placed One Patient at a Time into the top released healthcare books on Amazon. Like, Dr. Jeff, that's kind of a big deal.
I know, it's kind of, we're proud of that. I think that's because of Susan. It's certainly not because of me, but
I think there's kind of just an understanding here.
Now, you know, one of the things that's really cool, though, and by bringing that up, is it doesn't say in eye care, it says in health care. And so a lot of the questions we get, a lot of the comments are from doctors and practice administrators, office managers, nurses, nurse managers across the country, some international, that are facing the very same things that we're talking about in this book, and in our mentality of how do we provide patient relationships as the paramount factor in the interaction in the office.
Sure.
In addition to great access to care and great value for the patient. So.
Well, to your point, it truly doesn't matter. This kind of creatively on the cover here, we've got one customer at a time with a kind of a piece of tape on top and covered up customer with patient. It really doesn't matter, because it is truly a playbook. It doesn't matter the industry that you're in. There are 8 chapters, 135 lessons, and you've heard me say on previous episodes, they're bite-sized pieces. It's an easy read. There's a lot of really good, I would call it core common sense in here, but if you don't bring it kind of back to the basics, sometimes we forget about it. But let's dive right in, Dr. Jeff. Today we're covering lesson 17 and 18. We'll start with 17, which you and Dr. Susan have titled Education is a Part of Care. So it's interesting. This morning, it's Tuesday. We have just added an award to our list, which we're extremely excited about. We're here in Williamson County, and Williamson Parent Magazine is a great resource for parents. And we have just picked up another parenting award for 2020, which was really, really cool. We have this nice plaque right at the front as soon as you walk in. It's next to the other ones that we've won, which is even cooler. But my point here is, you don't have to be a patient here for very long to understand that education is a huge part of what we do here. From walking down the hallways, you see the information right there at your fingertips, because our doctors, our technicians, our opticians are picking up these educational pieces that have to do with me as a patient. And I came in with issues It's consistent reviews on Google, on Facebook. I had 2 this morning in our staff. I didn't tell you this. In our staff meeting, we had 2. They were sent. One was 10 hours ago, and one had happened about an hour after we started the staff meeting. Both on when we took our Christmas pictures in the reception, Miss Claus and Snowman. There were posts under there, had nothing to do with that. And there were 2 extremely positive reviews under there all around their experience and being felt like they were being educated and explained to from beginning to end. So talk to us about education and why it is so important for, if I'm coming in here once a year, right? Most people are coming here once a year. What are you really trying to educate me about?
Yeah, I think first it goes back to respecting the patient. We want the patient to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, rather than make it a mystery.
Right.
You know, you and I talk about many of the things that we've done in the office to communicate better, to educate better, and how we do that outside of the office. This podcast, blogs, other external e-blast and educational pieces to our registries. But inside the office, I think it needs to be intentional. And as what I was going to say is, you and I have talked about the fact that as much as we do, we still don't think we do it enough. And we're walking around the office, and we're going to have a meeting in the next couple of weeks on what type of explanation, signage, education can we put in the office to make it even better. When I'm having this test done, what is this test again, and what is it doing? That should be very visible, we think. So we changed the discussion. About 20 years ago, I used to always hear people talking about, oh yeah, I need to give them some brochure or two. Like, education was an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, that's also something I need to do. Okay, that's in addition to my exam. Yeah. Let's make sure that maybe we can get them some information, some basic information. And so when I lectured this to doctors, I said, change your mentality. Approach your patient care with the notion that education is a part of your care, not, oh yes, a nice thing to do in addition. If you do that, then you build your whole system to include education as part of that. So when we built the office, we concentrated very definitely on the signage, on the messaging that we would get across to our patients. We also put whiteboard paint in every room. Not just a whiteboard, but whiteboard paint that you can write on. Because, you know, if you're one of my patients or one of our doctor's patients, we oftentimes, people are very visual. They like to see what we're describing. So we can try to paint that picture, if you will. You can use Optos technology to show images. We have cameras in the room to be able to say, this is what your cornea looks like, so that we eliminate or minimize the mystery of what we as doctors are seeing. So we think that's important.
Well, here we are in the month of January. It is National Glaucoma Awareness Month, as we all know. You're definitely going to know that if you walk through our doors. But I wrote down here, you know, education is part of care versus a patient's Google search. You know, it never fails. What I think a lot of people do in certain circumstances is, you know, give an example about if I come in and I am glaucoma suspect. So you and I know from previous podcasts, if you go to the Intro to Glaucoma podcast, just a few episodes ago, you'll understand what glaucoma suspect actually means. But we know if a patient is coming in and hitting a couple of factors, or we're seeing some trend levels, we're going to say, hey, this patient is glaucoma suspect. That patient immediately needs to know that they don't have cancer, right? They need to know that they don't have glaucoma. They immediately need to be educated by us so that they're not, when we walk out of the room, grabbing their phones and going, glaucoma, pressure, what does that mean?
Yeah, blindness.
Headache. Exactly.
Things like that,
Because they're going to get the worst case scenario.
Well, that's right. And again, that goes back to, it's important for us to make sure people know all of the things that we're checking, but also when there are certain factors that put them potentially at a higher risk. I don't want to keep that as a mystery and then, 10 years later, they go, well, I never knew that. How many times you left the doctor and you see something in the note and you go, I never knew that. They never told me that. Well, we can't explain and tell everything, but we think it's very important that we try to communicate that. Now, we did build the office and have written about 90 patient education handouts customized, because in eye care and in every subspecialty, there are about 3-4 main diseases or disorders that you can get pamphlets, brochures, things like that some company has made, some publishing company, and you can hand that out. And they're all mismatched. Or we have drug companies, we have drug reps in here today, and they're passing out, hey, here's a great brochure to give to your patient. And what ends up is those are all, in a lot of offices, strewn around the reception room, or they're in the the exam room, and none of them match. They all look different, and they're all kind of saying the same thing, but they're really trying to say, use our product, use our product, use our product. Right. And so what we want was pure education for the patient on a whole bunch of big but also small topics. So not just glaucoma, cataracts, macular degeneration, but how to instill eye drops, putting in tear plugs, using Restasis, epithelial basement membrane dystrophy. Oh my gosh, EBMD, what's that? Well, let's talk about what it is, who gets it, and how do we treat it. Right. Those individual things that we've taken extra time to try to customize, like I said, close to 90 of those, including the testing and the surgical treatments and the other aspects in eye care that we think are important. Because a lot of times we'll talk in the room. I know it comes as a surprise to you that I speak a lot in the room.
I know you're kind of an introvert. I didn't realize.
So, but sometimes I come out of my shell and speak a lot. And I see people saying, okay. And I said, do you have any other questions? No. And sometimes I will try to reiterate. So I just want to hit the high points again. 1, 2, 3. Great. And I know that a lot of those people walk out, and no matter how well we try as a doctor, they walk out and they talk to the tech. And if the tech said, as they're walking them towards the front office, so tell me what Dr. Keg said. It'd be kind of like 3 words, glaucoma, pressure, come back 2 months, and so the educational handouts that all look the same, you'll see on our walkout hall are customized to one, look nice in the office and very specific so that it becomes a reiteration of the clinical findings or a reiteration to the patient after they leave the exam room and the conversation with the doctor. In addition to that, we always say, email me, text me. And we really do answer my phone all the time and talk with patients on my personal cell phone or on my email. Now, some doctors may not want to do that. They may want to have a separate phone. But again, I always like to stress to our patients that you don't have to be sitting in the exam chair to talk to us about your eyes. Whether it's your mom's eyes, your dad's eyes, they can be in Bloomington, Illinois. Right. We're willing to talk to you about that because you're our patient. We are the source for information and education for you.
As I See It, we'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Jeff Kegaris with Cool Springs and Donaldson Eye Care. We've proudly served the Middle Tennessee community for the last 26 years, and I want you to know we really appreciate you. Having an annual comprehensive eye health and vision exam is so important to the health of your eyes. From signs of diabetes, glaucoma, and cataracts, we're looking for it all. Don't let another day go by. Schedule your annual eye health and vision exam at Cool Springs or Donaldson Eye Care.
And now, back to As I See It.
To your point of being the source, leads us right into lesson 18. Certainty is more valued than uncertainty. I've said this in previous, but this is really just back to basics. You and Dr. Susan have done a really great job of simplifying what I think I have seen some business owners really complicate, right? Lesson 18, certainty is more value than uncertainty. This lesson, in my opinion, is truly about expectations.
Absolutely. Expectation building and fulfilling. It's really about promises, right?
So let's talk about promise dates and what a patient walking into their annual eye exam really cares about. If I'm listening to this, I'm immediately going, wait, you're going for your eye exam, you're having problems setting expectations. What are some of the things that our patients have or could experience? I'm immediately thinking of COVID and supply chain, right? So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay. I'm not sure if that was a question or...
It's more of a statement. Just
more of a statement.
You can answer whatever you want to. Really.
I agree with whatever you just said.
The sky is blue. It's okay.
Let me address that in this way. What I have seen that I don't like is typically, let's take a random example where you're getting contact lenses. And I, as a doctor, say, well, Cole, we're going to update your contact lenses and we're going to order those. And thanks a lot. If you're going to get your annual supply, that's good. And you say, okay, that's what I want, but I haven't given you anything that's certain. And you've got a whole lot of things to do, and you want to knock off things off your checklist, right? Especially at the beginning of the year, man. You got your new planner, and you're going to be as organized as you have ever been.
That's right.
And so what we prefer and expect in all of our doctors and our scribes in office and our opticians is to be very specific with you. Cole, we're going to order your annual supply, which is 2 boxes of contact lenses for the right eye, 2 boxes for the left eye. They're going to be at your door in 4 days. No charge for shipping. Oh, okay. Now I know when to expect it. 4 days, by the way, business days. So today is Monday. Let's see, that will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On Friday, you should be expecting those contact lenses at your door. Now, there's a reason that many offices don't do that, because they say, well, what if that's not going to happen? I mean, what if I'm wrong? Well, okay, why would you be wrong? Well, because I don't know what my suppliers are going to do. And I say, well, managing suppliers and the supplier standards are an essential part of running a business.
Right.
So if all companies come and they say, hey, we want to be your partner. And I say, man, that's great. What that usually means is you buy more of our stuff and we'll pat you on the back. And, in fact, we might even give you a couple gift cards for your people.
True partnerships.
Yeah, true partnerships. You take the risk
Yeah.
and we'll reward you if you buy our stuff.
That's right.
What I'm looking for is somebody that really is with us, okay, as a partner. And that says we're going to look forward. And so I think it's only fair for a partner. And I think this might even get into our supplier standards, which is another lesson in the book. But we talk about, if you're a supplier, I need to tell you what I expect. So for our contact lens suppliers, we say, look, we are going to pledge and promise to our patients when they're going to receive their lenses. We're going to ship to them for free. Can you do that? Yes. Okay. Great. Can you ship within these days? Because we're going to promise our spherical lenses in 4 days, our astigmatism and multifocal lenses in 8 days, and our very complicated prescriptions in 12 days. Okay? That means delivery time from the time that I'm seeing them at that point, which means if I'm promising 4, 8, 12 to the patient, my suppliers have to provide it to me, or they have to have a turnaround time of 3, 6, 10.
Right.
And so my supplier standard is very clear on one aspect, and that is turnaround time. If I order these supplier lenses, or these lenses from my supplier in your warehouse, all right, can you get them to the patient within 3 days? Because if you can, that allows for us to process the order, you to process the order. We'll say that takes a day total, and the patient gets them in 4 days. If you can't, at least I'm being very specific in what expectations we have for you to help me deliver good care. And then we monitor that. So we spot check and say, how often is our supplier meeting our expectation? So when I sit down with a supplier, then I don't just go, well, I'm not really happy with your job.
Right.
I'm giving them very specifics. I'm saying, you are meeting our turnaround time threshold perfectly. 99% of the time, that's great. What can we do to improve that 1%? Because sometimes it's on our end.
You have put, Dr. Susan, have placed in the book here on your supplier standards. You've listed out, again, very simple. How many businesses have vendors and they woke up one day and they've been in those relationships for 3-5 years more, and they haven't audited them? They're comfortable with James or Stacy or whatever doing that thing, and they're very comfortable. You list out here in the features, to your point, you're looking at all the vendors based on quality, turnaround time, cost, service, and then you're creating an overall rating. Dr. Jeff, is this something that you're doing with leaders in the company on, say, an annual basis?
Yeah, we do that on a monthly or quarterly basis.
Okay.
For instance, our optical manager, Noah and Stephanie, need to be aware of their supplier standards. All of the people that supply us goods, if you will, frames, lenses, laboratory services, and how they are being rated on certain categories. In that particular one, those are laboratory services. So we go to the vendors and we say, okay, you want to be our lab and you want to have more of our business? Here are our standards. Can you meet those? And if so, you're not automatically going to get our business, but we may try a little bit with you. And then if you meet those standards, you will see an increasing percentage of business. And the reason is because now when I'm promising to a patient, that's the rubber hits the road, I can depend on my supplier.
Right.
So I'm not asking for anything outlandish. I'm trying to be just very specific and saying, this is what a real partnership is, where we are both focused on the patient.
Right.
This is what we need to deliver to the patient. This is what we need to do. This is what we need you to do for us and for the patient, for us both to win. And to the extent that we win, you get an increased share of our business because now you're accountable. So again, it goes back to I want to be certain with patients. The other side of that is that we work with businesses on, I just have never really thought about that. how can I do it? And so we'll work with we won't try to evaluate every single supplier in a new healthcare business or a new regular business that's not in healthcare, but we'll break it down and we may start with one kind of key component. It might be office supplies, but it might not even be all office supplies. It might be paper supplies, or it might be something in marketing. And then we'll just kind of put our toe in the water a little bit and help them to kind of get an idea. And what they gradually do is they go, I was pretty happy with Joe providing this before, but I don't know why it takes 2 weeks. I'd really like to have this in 6 days.
Right.
I wonder if Joe can do that. And Joe goes, hey, you're a great customer. We can make that happen. And all of a sudden what you're seeing an improvement in the service to you, as well as your end customer. So that's where we like to try to help people with that. But to your point, and answering the question in a bit of a roundabout way, it's Noah and Stephanie and Ross's responsibility to be spot checking with all of their opticians how our laboratory services are being provided and rating each lab. And then ultimately we're looking for a trend. If we start to see a decrease in a lab's ability to provide service, say they went to a phone tree rather than a person, and it took us forever to try to get to a human being when we needed some information, or the lab broke a lens, but they didn't call us in advance, so therefore we couldn't call our patient to inform them, and now the patient's mad at us. We know it's a supplier issue, and we should have been informed, but that doesn't matter because we're now having to recover with the patient. The patient doesn't care. I'm not going to blame the lab. I'm just going to say, we screwed up. We didn't get that. We didn't get it to you in time. So I think to the extent that our suppliers really look at us as a partner, not somebody who's just trying to raise the standards for no reason or trying to be tough on them, but by saying, if you can meet these standards and if we can build these together, you'll improve your business, you'll improve our business. And really, we both win together. Most importantly, the patient wins.
So, Dr. Jeff, I'm hearing transparency and communication, just like the transparency of literally the 8 chapters in this book to the breakdown of the communication of how you're auditing the vendors. It's about sharing, transparency, communicating to the staff, communicating to the vendors. Here's where you're good. Here's where you're not good. I'm not happy here. We're talking with Dr. Jeff Kegaris, Lesson 18, Certainty is More Valued Than Uncertainty. He and his wife's new book, Dr. Jeff and Dr. Susan Kegaris authored One Patient at a Time, the K2-Way Playbook for Healthcare and Business Success. Dr. Jeff, I know we've got another sponsorship that we're going to put in future episodes because I want our audience to understand that aside from the book, we also have the website that they can go check out as well. And that is the K2way.com, the spelled out, the letter K, the number 2, way.com, the K2way.com. You can see Dr. Jeff interacting in some other environments and some speaking engagements. You see episodes of the podcast up there along with blogs that he has published and put out on the K2 Way. And I just think it's a really exciting place to go and check that out as well. So definitely check out the K2way.com. Dr. Jeff, thank you very much for lesson 17 and 18. I'm excited because I will reshare and definitely be promoting on the social channels. We've put the podcast out to a couple more, I think 5 or 6 other distribution channels, one of which is Spotify. So pretty excited.
And I really appreciate all the support that we're getting on this.
It's been very well received. So definitely thank you. So as always, please subscribe to the podcast. We really appreciate that. And as always, please leave us a comment. Dr. Jeff reads them each and every week. Thank you, Dr. Jeff.